Hey YouTube, this is me again. I'm going to try to get a lot of videos done for you guys, but this one is going to be the birth of my daughter, which is my second baby. She is 3. She was born 1/2/08, and she is my little crazy child. She's amazing. But anyways, I was 27 weeks pregnant when I first started, when I first went into labor, and that was so scary for me. And when I went in, they were like, you're having regular contractions, you're dilated to a 1, you're going to need to stay, we're going to have to try to stop your labor. If we can't, we're going to have to life flight you to Oklahoma City, because where I was at, they didn't have a NICU, so they're not really equipped to deal with a premature baby. This is freaking out. Like, I was like, what? I'm dilated? Freaking out. But some of you guys were asking why I went into premature labor with my daughter. Okay. Anyways, so I went back to the hospital and they were like, you need to drink more water. So they hooked me up to an IV, and let me just tell you, it was freaking shoot me time when they were trying to do my IV. First of all, I'm afraid of needles. Shh. Second of all, I'm afraid of needles. That's it. And they don't even hurt. They don't even hurt that bad, but I don't know, that's my fear, needles and snakes. But anyways, so when the girl came in to do it, I was like, she came in to do an IV, I was like, so are you good at doing IVs? And she was like, yeah. I was like, are you sure? I don't want you to mess this up. She was like, no, I'm awesome. I was like, okay. So here you go. And my veins are really good, and I wasn't really swollen or anything, and you could see my veins. So she started off trying to do one here, and she stuck it in and she moved it around, and she was like, oh, I blew that vein, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to try another one. I was like, are you sure you know how to do this? She was like, yes, I do, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. So she came over to this side and tried, and she blew that vein. At this point, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, lady, if you don't know how to do it, just go get somebody that does. That's all, whatever, you know? So then she tried in my hand, and she blew my vein in my hand. How do you blow that many veins? Anyway, so she stuck it in, and then her supervisor walked in, and she just like shoved it in my hand, and she was like, I just can't get it in her vein. Oh look, it's almost there. I think it's there. And her supervisor came over there and like pulled the thing out of my arm, and it was bent. I was like, you freaking crazy lady, don't just shove it in my hand. The supervisor did it one time, and she got it, and it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have bruises all over me. Sorry, just at the table. Anyways, so they kept me for 48 hours, or 24 hours, gave me fluids, and I was still having contractions. And I think by this point I was 29 weeks pregnant. Hang on, sister. And they moved me to another room, and so they kept monitoring me again, and they gave me steroids, a steroid shot for the baby's lungs. And then she was like, you know, it's gonna be a little while, blah blah blah, you won't have a baby. So like, everything stopped, my contractions stopped, I wasn't dilating anymore. They felt like it was okay to send me home. They sent me home, and then a week later, it was 31 weeks. I went into labor again, and I went up there, and I was so tired, you know, contractions, because I was having contractions all the time. Like, they would stop and they would come back, and I was drinking a lot of water, and I was still stressed out, but there's nothing I could do about that. So I was there, and they were like, you know, trying to get my labor to stop, and I figured that they would get it to stop and I would just go home. And this time they couldn't get it to stop, and my contractions just kept getting harder and harder. And at this point I was dilated to a 4, and they were like, we're going to go ahead and life flight you to Oklahoma City so that you're somewhere safe to have your baby. You know, we don't want anything to happen, and, you know, just let's just be safe about it. I was like, that's fine, you know. So some lady came in because they said I had to have a catheter, which I was like, lady, I can pee. I can walk to the bathroom and pee. I'm fine. I don't need a catheter. And they were like, you have to have one. I'm sorry. I was like, no, why do I have to have one? And they were like, well, the weather's bad, so we can't get the helicopter, so you're going to have to go in the ambulance, and you have to have one to ride in the ambulance all the way to Oklahoma City. I was like, why? I was so mad. But, so she did a catheter, and it was so freaking horribly painful. Like, oh my gosh. Never again. I hate catheters. But, anyways, the ride up there was horrific. Ambulances, if you don't know, like, they're super top heavy, right? So they don't have springs or shocks or whatever. So the ride was, it felt like I was tied to a board. Riding in my car up there would have been way more comfortable. Like, I would have much rather just drove up there myself. I was so aggravated. The lady was on her phone the whole time, and it was the worst experience ever in riding in a freaking ambulance. And it took like 4 hours to get there. Horrible. But I finally got there, and they hooked me up, and I was like, yeah, you know, this hospital's gonna be great, because it was OU Medical Center, and that's like supposed to be the best, you know, hospital ever, blah blah blah. And as soon as we got there, I was like, yeah, this is great, you know, and they're nice. And they were like, we can get your labor to stop. So they were doing ultrasounds and, you know, all these checks, and they, you know, were giving medicine and watching me, and I was on the labor delivery floor at this point, and they were super nice. And then a couple days later, they were like, we're going to move you down to the other place. You can't go home, but we're going to move you down there, so it'll probably be a week before you have the baby. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So they moved me, like, it's like 3 stories down. Anyways, so they moved me down there, and like the day they moved me down there, my water broke. I got up and went to the bathroom, and my water like broke. Like, it was different from Aiden because it was like a gush, but then it stopped. So they came down there, and they were like, yeah, your water did break, but that doesn't mean you're gonna have the baby today. And I was like, this is what happened last time. My water broke, and then I had a baby. So I don't know, but we'll see. And so we sent somebody down there, and they wouldn't check me after my water broke because they were afraid of an infection, like, because they wanted me to stay in labor for another week, which I didn't even think you were supposed to do after your water breaks. I thought you were supposed to have your baby within 24 hours. Blah blah blah. Either way, anyways, it's like a teaching hospital, so there's like student doctors or whatever, interns, and they were so rude. They came down there, and they wouldn't check me. They did, like, they were going to do a pap smear, like, put that little thing in there, and then they just like looked instead of, and I have a tilted uterus, so it's just impossible just to look at my uterus and see if it's dilating anymore, because you can't see because it's tilted backwards. Anyways, so I started having hard labor contractions. My water broke probably like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 5 I was having like contractions, like something was happening. Obviously I was like, oh, they were so horrible. They didn't give me any medicine or anything. I didn't even have an IV. I had a place for an IV. Like I had an IV, but it was like a cut, pinched off just in case I needed fluids or whatever. And I was in so much pain. I would like have a contraction and then I would go to sleep. And I would have a contraction and I would go to sleep. And it was the worst pain ever. And I think that it would have been a whole lot different. I think that it would have been such a great experience if, one, I wasn't preterm, and two, people would listen to me. I was like, lady, listen to me. I'm like having real contractions. Something's happening. I'm dilating. I'm gonna have a baby today. You need to get somebody down here to check me. It took them like 2 hours to get somebody down there, and the only reason somebody came down there is because I made the nurse came in there, and I was like, you better tell them they better get somebody down here before I have a baby in this freaking place right now. And there's not in, like, I wasn't anywhere near a NICU. The NICU doctors weren't down there. There was no doctors down there. I was like, this baby's about to come out. I'm telling you, this baby's about to come out. I'm about to have to push this baby out. And she was like, ma'am, I'm so sorry. They're going to be down here right now, blah, blah, blah. So, like, the doctor came down there, and she walked in, and she was so freaking rude. She said, ma'am, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not going to come down here and check you every time you want to be checked. I was like, lady, you better check me, because I'm telling you I'm about to push a baby out. And she was like, went and like got a glove and like checked me, and she was like, we need call the labor and delivery right now. We have to go up there right now. But Addison is like coming out. She just sat on the bed, hold the baby in, why they pushed me up to labor and delivery, because I was in labor and delivery. I was so furious. Oh, so furious. And I knew that I wanted an epidural. So I was like, I want an epidural. I was screaming for an epidural. Because I had such a great experience with Aiden. So I was like, oh, I want an epidural. I don't want to do this. I can't do this, you know. And you don't think you can until you have to do it, you know. It was crazy. Like, you know, me and my ex-husband, my husband at the time, my ex-husband now, he was there and he was just being horrible. Like, he was like, I was in the room, the anesthesiologist walked in as the nurse was like, don't push, the doctor has to get, you know, she had to run and get her whatever, scrubs on or whatever, I don't know. And I was like, I can't help it. And the anesthesiologist walked in, he's like, the anesthesiologist is here. I was like, are you effing, sorry, pardon my language, serious? He was like, and he just turned around and walked out. And then I was screaming, oh, I was so mad, like, I was in so much pain, like I was about to push a baby out. I was pushing a baby out because I couldn't stop. It was like to the point where I was stopping myself from pushing all this time, and I couldn't stop myself. Like my body was pushing my baby out. Like that's how she was just ready to come out. And the nurse was like, don't push, don't push, don't push. And I was like, I'm not pushing. She's just like, I'm like, I can't stop. I can't stop myself. Like I was freaking out. I was screaming, and Charlie, my ex-husband, came in and he was like, Stephanie, you need to stop screaming. You're scaring the ladies next door. Because a lady was in labor next door. I was like, she should be scared. And he was like, if you don't stop yelling, I'm going to leave. I was like, then effing leave. It was horrible. And I was in so much pain. But so I pushed her out, and the nurse that was setting my bed up delivered my baby, my premature child. And like as she was delivering her, the doctor walked in and grabbed the baby and gave her to the NICU people. And then as soon as I had her, without even asking me, they gave me a huge shot of something. I don't even know what it was. And it made me pass out. Like I like saw Addison, and then they left with her, and then that's all I remember. Because they had given me whatever, some kind of pain medicine after I had her. I was like, after I had her? Really? That defeats the purpose, doesn't it? But, yeah. And then I woke up and I was in a room by myself, and my husband at the time was not there. Obviously, my baby wasn't there. None of my family was there. Nobody was there. I was freaking out. So a nurse came in. She was like, how are you doing? And I was like, where's everybody at? And she was like, well, your husband left, your family left, your daughter's in the NICU, but you can't go see her because we don't have any extra staff right now, so we don't have anybody to walk you up there, and you can't go by yourself, or you need help, or whatever. And I was like, and so like I called Charlie's cell phone and I was like, where are you at? And he was like, I went to the hotel room to sleep in the hotel room bed because I'm tired. I hadn't slept. And I was like, are you serious? I was so upset, like, and I hadn't seen my kid, so it was like 4 in the morning, and I got up and I went to get on walked to the elevator by myself, and I asked some lady what the Florida NICU was, and then I went to the elevator to get on it, and there was only one elevator that takes you to that story of the whatever building, and the elevator was broke down. So if you wanted to go up there, you had to walk up the stairs. So I was like on floor 4, and she was on 7 or 8, and I had to walk up all those stairs right after I had a baby by myself. It hurt so bad, but I didn't care. Like, I had to like see her because I hadn't seen her. I didn't even know what she looked like. So I got to the NICU, and I went in the room, and she was gorgeous, and you know, she was so strong. She did have a CPAP and oxygen for the first couple of days, and an IV obviously, and it was so sad, but you know, I got to see her, so I walked myself up there and I got to see her, and then I stayed as long as I could until I was like passing out, and I had to go back to my room because I had no clothes on. I had a hospital gown on and like, you know, the mesh panties, and I looked hot. Not really. But yeah, I knew that she was in good hands. The NICU is amazing there, but the hospital, the labor and delivery and stuff is horrible. But yes, that was like the worst experience ever. The natural part, like having her naturally, was awesome. Like, I'm glad that I did that, and you know, after that I know that I could do it again, but I was so afraid because of the experience that I had with her. Oh, I was so afraid. But that is my birth story, and I don't know what happened after I had her. I know that I had a slight tear, but it just healed up on its own, like it was another one like I had with Aiden, like, so I stayed in the hospital for like 3 days, and they monitored me, and they gave me some medicine, but I didn't take it, and I pumped, and Addison took my breast milk, and I'll do a story about her NICU stay and how that experience was, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that was my labor and delivery story with Addison, which is a crazy story, and I hope nobody ever has to go through that. And you know, she only had to be in the hospital for a week or 2 weeks, a week and a half. So I was very lucky. Girls are stronger than boys if they're born early. In general, they are. And so they, you know, go home earlier than boys usually if they're born early or earlier or whatever. But yeah, that's my story. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, just ask me. Bye.